Have you ever thought about building the car of your dreams? Well, why aren't you? Is it a matter of cost? Skills? Do you think it's going to be too hard? Well, I'm here to let you know that it's easier and more rewarding than you think. Let's talk about it. I've been at the beginning. I know what it feels like to be trying to just get started and things feel impossible and it's a big mountain to climb. But I'm here to tell you, there's lots of ways through it. I've been building and working on cars for more than 20 years. This was my first car. I got it when I was 15 years old, and we paid all of $3,200 for the car, and it needed a few things. There were some maintenance items with emissions related components that I didn't know about, so we had to go find someone who did to be able to help get this squared back up. But in that time, it's gone from a street cruiser to a mild street strip car to a near purpose-built, dedicated drag car. It's going mid-12s at the second, which I realize isn't that quick, but I've also been working under budget constraints and working on it as I can. You hear people all the time tell you that you should start with the best possible car that you can afford, that you can find, that fits all the criteria you're looking for. Well, there's actually a pretty good reason for that. Once upon a time, when we were looking at cars for me, I wanted an El Camino, and it was down to two particular cars, this 82 and a really crusty 68. The 68 had a Muncie 4-speed. It was a cool car. It would bark the tires in all four gears. Anyways, at 15 years old, I was smitten with that car. But it was rough. It was crusty. There was a lot of things that was going to need. And starting with the best possible car meant that I was able to get into it and enjoy the car more fully and be able to learn stuff at a better pace that was going to be more beneficial to me and my trajectory through hot rodding. But it's a little bit more than that, because one of the reasons you're told many times to go find the best possible car is that it actually eliminates a lot of skill gaps. If you're just coming into this, you may not have the skills required for rust repair, the tools required for rust repair. These are things that take a lot of effort and time to develop. And just starting into it, you may not have those starting out. So it's important to look for a car that you can immediately get into, start enjoying, work with, learn, and grow with. Because I guarantee that no matter how good a car is, there's going to be lots of things to work on and learn. So the next thing to consider is that when you're purchasing an older car, you're going to want to replace a large number of things. Belts, hoses, ignition, tune-up items, change the oil, start getting some maintenance things taken care of so that way you become comfortable with learning what the car is. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to keep in mind is you're going to develop a lot of skills around diagnostics and troubleshooting and learning what it takes to make the car run exactly like it's supposed to. None of that is all that hard, and sometimes it can be just a matter of trial and error, finding things, taking care of little things until you get to the root cause of the problem. Now, there's going to be a lot of things. Vacuum lines, as an example, was something that tripped me up a lot when I was just starting with classic cars. Taking care of the vacuum system, suddenly the car started to run better. Ding, one thing. And I was able to go through and find that my ignition advance mechanism was wearing. Took care of that, and the car started to run better. Being able to take care of simple things like that allow you to progress your knowledge, your skills, and your confidence in being able to move forward with repairing and restoring and building your classic cars. Believe me, when I'm just starting out, I wanted to install big engine, headers, dual exhaust, do all these things that were fun. These upgrades actually required a little bit more forethought than just doing the things and enjoying them. When you're upgrading your car at the beginning, you want to keep your car sensible. What I mean by that is you don't want to go too crazy trying to tackle too many things at once. Do one thing, figure it out, do it well. Do the next thing, figure it out, do it well. Now, things like the cooling system and various other parts, you're probably going to want to visit moderately early on so that way you ensure you have a reliable car that you can enjoy with your family. Now, when it comes to upgrades, you're going to want to think of things as a whole or holistically. Holistically meaning that you've got fuel system, cooling system, exhaust, driveline. Upgrades tend to snowball. I know because this started out with a 350, then got a 383, and slowly more power was being applied. I broke the transmission. Great, we upgraded the transmission. So we thought. Broke that one, broke the torque converter, I've broken U-joints, I've broken the rear end. The point of the matter is that you need to thoughtfully go through upgrades. And if you're going to start applying big power as an example, you need to understand that sometimes you have to work from the back of the car and come forward, so that way everything you do is going to be able to be handled by the car effectively. So the next thing to really consider is, what is your intention for the car? Do you want a cruiser? Do you want a resto mod? Do you want a road race car that handles really well and goes around corners? Do you want a drag car? Do you want just a generally good performing vehicle? What's the intent of the car? Because as you start to set this out, all those talks about previous upgrades, they start to come to the front of your mind, so that way you're able to move forward effectively, that everything you do and change is taking the car from where it's at to those points and being the good car that you want it to be. Changing directions in a car costs a lot of money, and it's a lot of effort that you wind up doing to undo. That was me with this car early on. I just wanted a nice, good handling performer that I could drive on the streets and really enjoy. What it turned into was a drag car. But I went drag racing not too long after I got my license, and that set the hook. And I was enjoying it. And then as I progressed, I got more and more involved with it, and the car started to follow suit. So some of the things I had changed in favor of being a good street performer were now getting changed for being a good drag car. Now, this car can still be driven on the streets. I want to make sure that that's understood. However, there are times where you start to make concessions for parts, street parts, that are more race-oriented, that may not be quite so street-friendly. But that's okay. These are things that can be worked through one little bit at a time. But having a clear understanding of where you're taking the car is important, so that way you're always working toward that goal. One place you're always going to want to be aware of is safety. You know, the original belts, they may be questionable at best in the event that something happens. Brakes are one of those systems you don't want to get wrong. You want to make sure you're doing it right with quality parts and making good, sensible upgrades as you go, because the braking system is becoming more and more important. Modern cars have better brakes than ever before, and being able to have a classic car on modern roads, you want to make sure that you're at least capable of handling what the roads can throw at you and traffic around you. So having good safety features, good brakes, making sure that those are well kept and up to date. Keep safety in mind as you're building these cars, please. Another thing you'll hear over and over, what's your budget? If you have a clear goal and intention for your car, you're able to tailor your budget to be able to keep you working towards that. Now, there are times where life throws a curveball at you and you need to get a new tire on your daily driver. That happens. That eats into the fun money. I've lived it. It's okay. That's life. The point is that you need to make sure that your end goal can be achieved with the budget that you have. Sometimes you have to make concessions with the budget, and your end goal may not be able to be the same. But I want to make sure that you understand that there are ways that you can go through to help increase the budget without necessarily touching your personal finances. I've gone down the road of having my car and build sponsored. That is one way you can go, and if you're interested, I'll put a link up here that you can watch my video where I talk about that. So let's talk about tools for a little bit, because you see guys that have been at this for 20, 30 years, and they have an impressive collection of tools. That's because they've spent a lifetime up to this point collecting those tools. To be totally honest, it doesn't take that much to get started. Basic sets of hand tools, pliers, screwdrivers, wrenches, socket set, that is more than enough to tackle a vast majority of specific things on your car. Now, there's always going to be a specialty thing, onesie, twosie, the big oddball Torx bit for seatbelts as an example, or there's a big socket that you don't have, or a specialty fastener. Those onesie, twosie things are going to come up. So there's a lot of things you can keep in mind and do with tools. And as you learn and progress, you can step up to power tools to be able to have a better quality of life, do things faster, do things in that regard. One thing I do want to bring up, though, if you're looking at OBD2 cars like 1996 and newer, or if you're looking at engine swapping your classic with an LS as an example, having a scan tool on hand that's capable at handling those codes is important. And if you're even working on your new daily drivers, that same scan tool could also be used to help repair them, saving you money. See, this is an interesting thing, because as you go, you're going to get more competent at working at your old stuff to be able to handle the new stuff. And by not having to take your new stuff somewhere, you're able to save a boatload of money that you can then apply to the old stuff. See, that tool investment doesn't sound so bad when you realize that, hey, I could spend $200, $300, $400 on a really quality scan tool, and then I'm not spending that money down the road for my daily stuff. Like any car, there's going to be maintenance things. My wife's 2006 Sebring, it requires maintenance. Your Classic is going to require maintenance too. So understand that you're going to be putting in the effort to maintain these cars as well as keep upgrading as you go. So that budget needs to allow the opportunity to maintain the things you have. Nothing about classic cars is that particularly hard. And everything I do, I want to help it make it easier for you to wrench on your classic cars. So let's get out of the garage and let's go build something and learn something in the process.